Panettone. It's annoying when people do that. That's how they're pronounced. Welcome to Escapism Cooking. I'm Mandy Lee. We're going to be making a very, very festive bread called panettone. It's obviously from the name, it's Italian. I call it bread, but because it's so enriched with butter and sugar and it almost eats like a cake. A lot of the traditional recipes involves sourdough starter, which I don't have, and all this stuff. So today I'm gonna show you my streamlined version of a panettone. This is not a hard recipe to make, even though it does take quite a while. You're gonna have to start 2 days before you serve. And I think that it's going to encourage more people to get into this very charming Christmas festive tradition. I'm using a Japanese technique called Tangzhong. It really just translates into a flour roux. It's a very common technique in Japanese bread where it's like soft and squishy, but in this panettone recipe, it's going to actually keep the panettone moist for a longer period of time. There are many different flavors for panettone. Candied fruit, I think that's the most common. I hate candied fruit. So I'm actually going to be making my roux with Bailey, the liqueur. And I'm using Bailey because it has this creamy aroma that I can't really put my finger on it. I think it's caramel, and that's diluted with a little bit of milk. By default, roux means a flour mixture that is cooked. So we're going to be whisking the flour into the Baileys. I have it whisked up, a little bit of tiny lumps. That is okay. And I'm going to start cooking it on medium heat until it starts to thicken. This is a recipe that you're gonna wanna start during the evening time because it's gonna do its first rise during the night. So just a few minutes, it will start to thicken. You can stop cooking when the mixture starts to bubble. So this obviously needs to cool down. I'm going to chill this by submerging it in an ice bath. I think it's the fastest way. It doesn't have to be cold, but it has to be cool. While that's going on, you're gonna need a stand mixer that's big enough to work this dough. Bread flour, very typical bread flour, light brown sugar, salt in here already. We're going to add 1 whole vanilla beans. You can use vanilla extract if you want. Scrape the seeds from the vanilla out. You're gonna do the same thing to the other one. I'm gonna add some diastatic malt powder. It's optional, you don't need it, but it helps and aid the fermentation, as I was told. Some plain yogurt to make up for the lack of sourdough starter that we have. Obviously, lots and lots of eggs. I have 6 egg yolks and 1 whole egg. This is a very enriched bread. Consider yourself warned. We have yeast, and I'm going to soak it in some milk. I'm not gonna try to bloom it or activate it, but I'm just gonna try to basically soften it. About 10 minutes, let it do its thing. In the past, I've had difficulties having the yeast completely dissolved into the dough. If you are a baker, professional, let me know why my yeast won't melt into the dough. I feel like there needs to be some kind of fruit and nuts in this festive bread, so this is my substitute. Dry figs, and I have deshelled roasted chestnuts. All I'm gonna do is split it into half with my hand. Same as the chestnuts. I've watched a lot of panettone videos. Instead of mixing these things into the dough, they kind of fold it in. That's the technique that I'm gonna try to deploy today. We are finally ready to mix. So I have my cooled down roux, and I'm going to add it all with the rest of the ingredients. The yeast goes in as well. I'm gonna start on low, scraping down the sides a bit. You're probably gonna have to stop here and there and scrape the dough down from the hook. Just go up to 2. Once there's no flour on the bottom, I'm gonna mix it for like 5 to 10 minutes. It has developed quite a bit of elasticity. but we're not quite there yet. We're going to start to increase the hydration of the dough. I have more Baileys and I have put 2 ice cubes in the Baileys. My kitchen is very warm right now. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of this cold Baileys. So we are another 10 minutes in and I ended up actually adding 1 more tablespoon of Baileys. The dough is gonna be shiny, very, very sticky, but shiny. It's time for butter, all 208 grams of butter. And I'm gonna start adding the butter. 2 to 3 tablespoons at a time. You wanna use cold butter. And once you see like your previous addition has more or less been absorbed, you can do the next addition, okay? Once the butter is incorporated fully, you're gonna have to keep kneading it. Butter is pretty much all absorbed, but this is gonna keep going for at least 10 minutes. So I'm done mixing. What you're looking for is this extremely shiny and elastic dough. So this is what basically you're looking for. So I'm actually going to be mixing these in by hand by doing like this like folding in motion. And you can already see like bubbles. Okay, I think we're almost there. My arm. Give me a few minutes. And then this is gonna go for the first rise. I wanted to like rise for 12 hours and right now it's still 6 p.m. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap and I'm actually going to leave it in the fridge. And I'm gonna take them out maybe around 1 a.m. and then leave it to do its first rise overnight. But here we are. You can see that my dough has doubled. So I'm gonna put this aside first because before we shape them, we need to prepare our mold. You can find these molds in like baking shops or whatnot. They are kind of the traditional look for a panettone mold. The second they come out of the oven, you're gonna have to hang them upside down. And that is because it's a very, very airy dough. And if you don't, it's going to lose a bit of that volume that you try so hard to achieve. So what I do, very simple, near the very bottom at the corner, I'm gonna make an incision. I have a little hole and right across the circle, I'm going to make another hole. And I have some kitchen twine. Doesn't matter as long as it's thick enough and it's oven proof. Kitchen twine right through one hole and out from the other side. Tie the ends so that I have a nice little string here that I can hang this upside down easily. To prevent the dough from sticking, I prefer to wet my hands and I'm actually gonna wet my counter. I'm gonna wet this scraper as well. And there. I'm going to wet my hand really, really well. So I'm gonna cut this in half. How I usually fold my dough, which is I get corners from each side, pull them towards the center, and I try to tighten it up a little bit. And if you feel like it's sticking to your hand, just wet the dough. And then I'm going to transfer them into the mold that I prepared. There you have it. And I'm gonna repeat with the other one. Then into the mold we go. That's ready for their second rise. I'm gonna cover these very, very well with plastic wrap. Maybe use a couple just to make sure that it doesn't dry out. I find that to get that very, very glorious spring, I'm gonna make a foil dome that goes on top. Basically, you wanna trap the steam inside for the first part of the baking. So I have 2 pieces of foil here. And you want to overlap it so it's like relatively a big square. Fold the sides to reinforce the sides. Sort of a square. Basically shape it into a box. Here. This is an excruciatingly slow rising dough, at least 6 to 8 hours. I'll see you back here. After like a whopping 6 hours, the dough has finally done its second rise. I would highly suggest you put them in a warm oven. It's gonna have this like wobbly feel to it. I'm going to do my egg wash. Be very careful when you put egg wash on top of this dough because it's at this point very fragile. 好啦! Sorry about that. The entire surface very generously covered in egg whites, and that's gonna give it that really nice shine. I'm gonna go with the sprinkling of sugar, and obviously these are not gonna look as cute as pearl sugar, but I'm gonna work with what I have. And now I'm gonna do a cross slit. I just find it a lot easier with the scissor. So you can see that it's gonna like kind of deflate just a little bit when I do that, but that is okay. The foil cap. You want to make sure that it covers the top, but then it leaves enough room for this dough to rise. Okay, so now they're ready to go in the oven. In the oven they go. We're gonna bake like this for 40 minutes. And after 40 minutes, you're gonna remove the foil and another 15 minutes for the top to brown. Okay, 40 minutes. Gah, so stressful. Another 15 minutes. Now it's nice and brown, probably a little too brown, but you want to immediately turn it upside down and hang it somewhere. Flip it. This is all kind of stressful. Okay, so you're gonna hang it somewhere in your kitchen. There. And that's where we're gonna hang overnight. Ta-da! The panettone has aged overnight, and this is one of the bread that actually tastes better the next day. You can sprinkle just a little bit of powdered sugar just to give it a little bit of that Christmassy feel, but it's optional. I forgot to take the string away. So very simple, you just cut one side of the string and then you pull it away. Some force. You just basically cut through the whole thing with a serrated knife, including the paper mold. Here's this section. And even though it's a day old, because of the Tangzhong, it's still very moist. Very good. Not too sweet. Sweet enough just for me as a dessert bread. You can certainly detect that caramelly aroma from the liquor inside the bread. And you can see very nice distributions of big chunks of figs, chestnuts. I hope you like this super festive recipe for a streamlined panettone that I modified with the Tangzhong technique that stays moist for days. Let me know in the comments if you like it. See you next time. Bye!